What is going on, college basketball fans? Today is time for our first official preseason Daniology Power 35 ranking. Still way too early, but we have a good idea of what a lot of these teams are going to be looking like next season. A lot of the big time transfers have committed. We know who is entering the NBA draft, who is returning to school. So I feel like it is an appropriate time to come out with our first preseason rankings. And I'm ready to get started. Just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy, and let's go. All right, the Daniology Power 35 preseason, way too early, whatever you want to call it. Here it is, and let's go over and break it down. So our number one team preseason, I do have the Michigan State Spartans, and Sparty is looking pretty stacked next year. I mean, they're returning their really good backcourt of AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker. They're bringing back pretty much almost everybody except for like Joey Hauser, and they're bringing back Sissoko down low at center. They have a top three recruiting class coming in, including Xavier Booker, which could be maybe one of the best, if not the best, freshman coming in at the power forward position. They're returning Malik Hall. They have a lot of guys returning to this team, and Sparty is going to be definitely a problem this upcoming season. Coming in here at number 2, we do have Kansas. They're returning quite a bit as well, and not too long ago it came out Kevin McCullough is actually returning along with DeJon Harris Jr., along with KJ Adams. They have a lot returning. No more Jalen Wilson, no more Grady Dick, but still have a solid squad. They brought in some really good transfers, including the number one transfer this offseason in Hunter Dickinson. They also brought in guys like Nick Timberlake over from Townsend, who is a guy who can step right into that Christian Braun, Grady Dick-esque role at the shooting guard position and be really good. Kansas going to be one of the best teams in the country for sure once again this season. Also brought in a guy like Arterio Morris from Texas, who is only going to improve from his freshman year last season, who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Like, he's going to be really good, a really good shooter coming off the bench for this Kansas team. I have them coming in here at number 2. At number 3, we do have the Purdue Boilermakers. Now, I know they did lose to FDU as a 16 seed in the March Madness tournament, but let's not forget that this team was pretty dominant all season long up until the March Madness tournament. I mean, they were just dominating, especially early on in the season, and they are returning that entire team. They're returning that entire team, man, including a reigning National Player of the Year, Zach Edey. And they're returning their freshman guards like Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, who are going to improve because they were both freshmen last season. And I especially think that Braden Smith is going to have a really good sophomore season. Guys like Marcus Gillis, who was not great in the March Madness tourney, but maybe he'll improve himself some. Coming off the bench for this Purdue team, Caleb Furst, like, they still have a really solid team, all returning, and I expect them to be really good and dominant throughout at least the regular season next year. So I have them coming up in here at number 3. At number 4, I do have Marquette. I see some people giving Marquette a lot of respect and some people not, but similarly to Purdue, they're returning their entire starting 5. I mean, they're returning Tyler Kolek, who's one of the best passers in the country, along with like DeJon Harris. Even AJ Hoggard is a super good passer, underrated passer. I think so. But Tyler Kolek, another one, reigning Big East Player of the Year. Marquette is the Big East regular season and Big East tournament champions from last year. Yes, that's right. They beat out UConn in the Big East championship game in the Big East tournament. And they're returning that entire starting 5, including Iggy, Cam Jones, Tyler Kolek, like I said, Prosper, Mitchell. Like, they have a stacked lineup coming back, and Marquette should be the favorites to win the Big East once again this upcoming season. And I would be surprised if they weren't a 1 or a 2 seed, or at least a 3 seed come March Madness next season. Coming in here at number 5, I do have Arkansas, and as good of an offseason as they had, and as good as their roster and as deep as their roster is looking for this upcoming season, I see nobody giving Arkansas that much respect or even having them in their top 10, and I just don't get it. I have them all the way up here at number 5. I think they have a stacked team, and just not too long ago at the NBA draft deadline, it came out that Devo Davis is returning to Arkansas as well, and that was kind of the icing on the cake for me. And they're also in a two-headed race with Alabama to pick up Grant Nelson. So if they get Grant Nelson as well, they might actually have to move up even further from number 5 and possibly be even number 1. Like, I'm pretty high on this Arkansas team, and it's pretty clear to me that they are going to be the best team in the SEC this next season. The must bus is moving, and they're up here at number 5. At number 6, we do have the Duke Blue Devils, and they kind of have a similar story to Michigan State, where they are returning their 3 best players, in my opinion, which are Kyle Filipowski, Jeremy Roach, and Tyrese Proctor, and they also have a top 3 recruiting class, top 3 recruiting class or so coming in this season. So they are going to have a really good team year 2 under John Shire. I'm very excited to see this team play, and I think that, on the lookout for Duke. I definitely feel like they could be one of the best teams in the country all season long in college basketball next year, and I think they'll be the best team in the ACC. At number 7, we do have our reigning national champions, the UConn Huskies, and I have them down here at number 7 for a few reasons. They actually just picked up Cam Spencer last night, which was a really good pickup. He'll probably be a starter or maybe the 6th man of this UConn team next year. But either way, he'll play a pretty big role and get some good minutes. But they are returning Tristan Newton, who is their leader, their point guard there. They're bringing in Stephon Castle. They're returning Donovan Clingan, who I think Donovan Clingan is going to have an amazing year this next season, because he was putting up ridiculous numbers last year and he wasn't even getting that much minutes because he was the backup to Adama Sanogo. So he is going to be the starter now, which is going to be crazy. I think that he could dominate in a similar way to what Zach Edey was. Maybe not as much production, but definitely up there, and UConn is definitely going to be a problem next year. It would be ridiculous not to have them in your top 10 at this point. Coming in here at number 8, we do have the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and yes, they are finally not going to have Drew Timme on their team, but they did bring in his replacement in Graham Ike, who is going to be a beast for this Gonzaga team. They also brought in transfer point guard from Creighton in Ryan Nembhard. That is going to be awesome as well. They're returning guys like Antoine Watson. Gonzaga, they're going to be super good once again next year. I have them coming in here at number 8. At number 9, we do have Florida Atlantic University, and they are returning everyone from that Final Four team last season. Literally everyone. They're starting 5, they're 6-man. They're going to be amazing once again this season. They're moving from Conference USA over to the AAC Conference, and honestly, out of the AAC Conference teams, it's looking like it's going to be between them and Memphis as far as who's going to win that conference. I would put my money on FAU right now, but those are probably the only 2 teams that are looking like they have potential to make the tournament next year out of that league, so we will see how it all shapes out. Coming in here at number 10, we do have the Miami Hurricanes, and Miami, they are losing Jordan Miller and Isaiah Wong to the NBA draft, but they are returning Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier, which are still 2 really big pieces to this team, and they brought in a good transfer from Florida State and Matthew Cleveland. Miami looking very solid for this next season. I have them coming in here at number 10. At number 11, we have San Diego State coming off of a national championship game appearance. I mean, who would have thought the Aztecs in the national championship game? Amazing. What a run it was for them last season. They have a lot of guys returning from last season. They did lose Kashad Johnson, a few other guys moving on, but for the most part, they have the core of that team returning, and that's a team that it's very well coached, very defensive, and I definitely think they're going to be a top team next season throughout the year, and 100% the favorites to win the Mountain West next season. I mean, I'm sure they'll have some other good teams like New Mexico again, Boise State might be good again, but for the most part, I think San Diego State, they got the Mountain West on lock next year. Coming in here at number 12, we do have the Texas Longhorns, and yes, they are losing Marcus Carr, but they brought in one of the best transfer pickups of the offseason in Max Asmus come in there at point guard, returning Tyrese Hunter. That's going to be a really fun backcourt. I feel like Tyrese Hunter was a little bit disappointing last year. He was really hyped up after the March he had his freshman year at Iowa State, but I feel like he didn't quite live up to that there at Texas. We'll see if he takes a step up this year with his new backcourt mate there in Max Asmus. They're also returning Dylan Dessou, who I think is going to have a massive year this season, especially from what he did in the March Madness tourney last year on their Elite 8 run. That dude was going crazy. I feel like he's going to have a big year this season as well. They also brought in transfer from Virginia, Caden Shedrick. Their front court's looking good. Their back court's looking good. Returning Dylan Mitchell. Texas is going to be like that next year. And honestly, if you wanted to put Texas in your top 10, I would say, yeah, that's really fair. Coming in here at number 13, we do have the Creighton Blue Jays, and like I said earlier, they lost Ryan Nembhard. Arthur Kaluma is in the transfer portal as well, but they are still returning 3 of those starters from last year's Elite 8 team, that being Bailey Shireman, Trey Alexander, and also Ryan Cockburner. They also brought in a really good transfer to be their new point guard out of Utah State, and Stephen Ashworth. He is going to be really good for Creighton next season. They're coming in here at number 13. At number 14, we do have the West Virginia Mountaineers, and I think they have a top 15 roster for next season, 100%. I mean, their team is looking really, really good. They're returning guys like Trey Mitchell. They brought in Jesse Edwards to be the starting center, and that works really well with Trey Mitchell because he is a stretch 4. He can shoot the rock. They brought in their new point guard to replace Kedrian Johnson in Kerr Kriisa, the transfer out of Arizona, who's going to be a really good passer for this team. They also brought in a ton of guards, a ton of shooting on this team, and I am very, very excited for this West Virginia team. They're going to have one of the best bench depths in the country. In my opinion, they have 3 centers, Jesse Edwards, Mo Wagi, and James Okonkwo, who can all come in and be productive defensively and also offensively. So I'm very excited for the Mountaineers. I have them coming in here at number 14. At number 15, we do have the Arizona Wildcats. They brought in a couple of really good transfers. They have a new backcourt, both transfers in Jaden Bradley and also Caleb Love. That's going to be a really fun backcourt to watch there in Arizona. They're also returning Omar Ballo. So this Arizona team is looking pretty good for next season. Once again, I feel like they're going to be the best team in the Pac-12 conference. I'm very excited to watch the backcourt of Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love go up against the backcourt of Boogie Ellis, Isaiah Collier. That's going to be a ton of fun there in the Pac-12. We'll get to USC up at 22, where you see at number 16, we do have Tennessee returning their star backcourt of Vescovi and also Zakai Ziegler. They're also returning a few other guys as well. Lost some guys to the transfer portal, but including Oliver Conquo, but Tennessee, for the most part, they're returning a lot of guys. They brought in a few underrated transfers. Tennessee, they should be one of the best teams, along with Arkansas, in the SEC once again next season. Coming in here at number 17, I do have the Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana is going to be super good once again next season. I think other than Michigan State and Purdue, Indiana is definitely right up there as far as one of the best teams in the Big Ten next season. No more Trace Jackson Davis, who is one of the best players in college basketball last season, but they did replace him with Khalil Ware. I'm very excited to see what Mike Woodson does with Khalil Ware and gets hopefully gets to his max potential there under Mike Woodson. I think he will. I think he's in for a really big season with the Hoosiers, and overall Indiana's looking really solid next season. Returning their point guard Xavier Johnson, who got injured last season, and yeah, I'm very excited to watch Indiana play next season. Coming in here at number 18, we do have the Houston Cougars. Lost guys like Marcus Sasser, but they are bringing back Jamal Shed, and also brought in a transfer from Baylor and LJ Cryer, so that's going to be their new backcourt. First year in the Big 12 Conference this year. I still think they're going to be a top 25 team. I have them coming in here at number 18. At number 19, we do have St. Mary's. St. Mary's are going to be super good once again next season. Aiden Mahaney is going to tear stuff up. Last season, he was only a freshman. He was a very good player. I think he's only going to improve and be one of the best, honestly, a top player in college basketball next season, especially like stats wise, all that stuff. I think he's in for a huge year with St. Mary's. I have them coming in here at number 19. At number 20, I do have TCU. I feel like TCU is kind of being a little bit underrated in a lot of these lists. But I do have them coming in here at number 20. No more Mike Miles, and they did move on from Eddie Lampkin. I feel like those were like the big names that kind of like the casuals know from TCU, but the core of this TCU team is kind of still together. Like, you still have Damian Ball coming back. Jameer Nelson Jr., who's going to play that Mike Miles role perfectly for Jamie Dixon. Eddie Lampkin wasn't even all that great. TCU brought in some great transfers like Avery Anderson from Oklahoma State, who's going to be an amazing six-man and plays amazingly against Big 12 opponents. He did there at Oklahoma State. TCU is going to be super good once again next season, and it was the fast-paced nature of Jamie Dixon's coaching that kind of made TCU work so well. I don't think it was just Mike Miles. I think Jameer Nelson Jr. is going to come in there and maybe even have an even better season than Mike Miles did this past year. Coming in here at number 21, we do have Alabama. And Alabama, they were the top overall seed in March Madness last season, but they lost a lot. They lost Brandon Miller. They lost Jaden Bradley. They are returning Javon Quinterly for his 90th season in college, and they also are returning Mark Sears. So those are two key returners coming back. They are losing Noah Clowney to the draft. But they are, in talks to pick up a lot of these transfers that are still on the board, like Grant Nelson there in his final two, like Arthur Kaluma. I feel like they're heavily going after him as well. So if they get one of those guys, that's going to be huge as well. Probably could bump them up a couple of spots here, but I have them coming in here at 21. Still in the top 25, still going to be a solid team, just not a top tier team in my opinion. Coming in here at number 22, we do have USC, and I see a lot of people having them, in their top 15 or even their top 10, which is kind of ridiculous to me. But they are bringing in Bronny James, Isaiah Collier from recruiting this year. But those are freshmen. They're top freshmen, 5-star recruits. But, let's pump the brakes on them a little bit. They are returning Boogie Ellis, which is going to be their best player next season. But their front court, I'm not so sure how good their front court's going to be this season. They had a lot of their guys from last season transfer out. I think 22 is a fair spot for Southern Cal to come into this next season. Obviously, if they prove me wrong, then I'll move them up, but I feel like a fair spot for them is 20 to 25. I feel like, top 10 is definitely too far for USC preseason, especially because they play in a Pac-12 conference that's just really, it's not that good this season. So I'm going to have USC coming in here at number 22. At number 23, we do have Texas A&M. They are returning their star player in Wade Taylor. Only a sophomore last year, was tearing it up. I feel like they had a really tough path whenever they were in the March Madness tournament this past season. As a 7 seed, they got a really tough draw, but they had a really good season last year, and Buzz Williams is a really good coach. I mean, that's no excuse. They probably still should have been able to win, at least against Penn State. They got blown out in that game, but I'm kind of on board with A&M being a lot better once again this season and being a consistent top 25 team throughout the year. So I have Texas A&M coming in here at number 23. At number 24, I do have the Illinois Fighting Illini, bringing back Terrence Shannon Jr. and also Coleman Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins is one of the most underrated and productive players in college basketball. I think that is really huge. They are able to bring back those two players, and they did not enter the NBA draft. They still need a point guard, which is worrying a little bit, which is why I only have them as my 4th best team in the Big Ten behind Michigan State, Purdue, and Indiana. They need to find a point guard, but yeah, I still have them coming in here at number 24. They did have Jaden Epps, who transferred out of Illinois, which is, that was tough. They definitely would want to keep him. Coming in here at number 25, we do have Villanova. And Villanova, they had a tough year last year. Jay Wright, no more Jay Wright as the head coach. They had a tough year, had a ton of talent on that team, but they are doing work in the transfer portal, recruiting. Villanova, I feel like they're going to be back next season. They're not going to be the best team in the Big East. I mean, they still have Marquette, UConn, Creighton. Xavier's going to be good once again, but I feel like Villanova is going to be around like that fourth, fifth best team in the Big East next season, and I feel like they're going to be a tournament team. The Big East is going to be really stacked next year, and I think Villanova is going to be back to winning basketball games. I have them coming in here at number 25. At number 26, we do have Kentucky. No more Oscar Tshiebwe. They didn't bring in any players through the transfer portal. They lost Frederick. It's rumored they're going to lose Reeves, Antonio Reeves. So they lost a lot, this offseason, and they really haven't done anything in the transfer portal, like, at all. So their team is going to be made up of pretty much all freshmen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because they have the best recruiting class coming in this offseason, which is why I still have them up here at 26, even though they really did not have that great of, like, a transfer portal period at all. In fact, they probably had one of the worst ones in Division One as far as the transfer portal, so and off-season moves. But other than the recruitment, yeah, they've been down there. But they have a lot of super good, talented players coming in who are going to start for this Kentucky team, going to be one and dones, make it to the NBA. But is that going to translate into winning games? I think some, which is why I have them around here at 26. Coming in here at number 27, we do have Kansas State. Keontae Johnson is actually returning and playing for Kansas State, so I could actually maybe even move Kansas State up a little bit higher too. But no more Marquise Noel, who was kind of the guy the best passer in college basketball last year, in my opinion. He was amazing, and a lot of you guys saw that in the March Madness tournament. He was doing it all season long last year. But they brought in Tyler Perry, a transfer from North Texas. North Texas did win the NIT tournament last season, mainly because of him. He was their star player. He's going to be the point guard for the Kansas State team. Big fan of Tyler Perry just because he worked his way up from JUCO to North Texas to now a Power 6 conference team and playing in the best conference college basketball in the Big 12. He's going to be the starting point guard for Jerome Tang. That is just awesome to see. They're also returning Tomlin down there at the power forward position to play their big men, so I think that's huge as well. Kansas State going to be super good once again next season, and if you wanted to move them up a couple of spots, I could definitely see that now, because now that I'm kind of talking about their team, I feel like they might even be better than 27, so I might actually move them up a little bit come the time next rankings. Coming in here at number 28, I do have the Baylor Bears, another Big 12 team, losing a lot, losing their Big 3, LJ Cryer, to the transfer portal, lost Adam Flagler now to the NBA, and also Keontae George, their star freshman last year, to the NBA as well. So they're losing a lot. They're still bringing back guys like Jalen Bridges. They brought in some good transfers. They just missed out on Oliver Kamwa because just before I started recording this video, Oliver Kamwa did commit to Michigan. So Baylor lost out on that transfer. I still think Baylor's going to be really good. Scott Drew is just an excellent head coach. And Baylor's just one of those teams that are always going to be in the mix for things, and I have them coming in here at 28. Coming in here at number 29, we do have the North Carolina Tar Heels, and no more Caleb Love, and a lot of North Carolina fans kind of think that that might be for the better because they were still returning R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot. Armando Bacot has been one of the best players in college basketball the past 2 years, and even though North Carolina underperformed last season, Armando Bacot was still that guy. Like, he's going to be back for some vengeance. They just played in a national championship team with the same starting point guard and starting center that they're having return again this season, just 2 seasons ago. So North Carolina, they're going to be super good once again. Hopefully they'll be back to making the March Madness tournament. I feel like they will be. I have them coming in here at number 29. I could see them moving up from here or moving down from here. We'll just have to find out. Coming in here at number 30, we do have Northwestern. Northwestern returning Boo Buie, returning Ty Berry. Northwestern's going to be really solid once again next season. They have a lot of players returning, like I said, including their stars. So very excited for Northwestern basketball, who was a big surprise last season. Let's see if they can keep it up and do it once again and make the tournament once again. Coming in here at number 31, we do have Virginia. They are losing a lot, man. No more Kei Clark. No more Caden Shredrick as he transferred out. Yeah, they're losing a lot, man. Finally moving on from Jaden Gardner. Like, they're losing a lot. So it's Reese Beekman's season here for Virginia. Isaac McNeely, who I'm a big fan of because he was the player of the year in West Virginia high school basketball. I hope he does well for the Cavs. And like Reese Beekman, he's going to be their star. He's going to be the guy. We'll see what Virginia can do. I have him coming in here at number 31. Coming in here at number 32, we do have St. John's. I feel like this is a fair spot for Rick Pitino's team in the Johnnies. Like, they picked up a lot of transfers this offseason. I think they're going to be pretty good in the Big East, but not better than some of the Big East teams that I have ahead of them. So I feel like this is a fair ranking here for St. John's here at 32. Same things, similar to Rick Pitino bringing a bunch of transfers to St. John's is Chris Beard bringing in a bunch of transfers to Ole Miss. I feel like this is a fair spot for them. He's brought in a lot of really good guys. A ton of guards brought in there at Ole Miss. They're going to be pretty solid. They play in a tough SEC conference, though, so we'll see Ole Miss coming in here at number 33. Coming in here at number 34, I do have the Auburn Tigers. I feel like Auburn, they're one of my sleepers to have a bounce-back year this season. I think Auburn is going to be super underrated in the SEC and be a really good team. Like, they're bringing back Johnny Broome. They have a 5-star recruit in Aiden Holloway coming in. Aiden Holloway is probably one of the most underrated recruits that are going to be coming into college basketball next season. He's going to be playing for the Auburn Tigers. Bruce Pearl, a super good head coach, like a super good underrated head coach. Auburn's going to be solid, and I could honestly put them in my top 25. Like, I feel really comfortable in them having a really good bounce back year and just being a problem next season. 35, we do have the Xavier Musketeers, and they are losing a lot. Sully Boom, Colby Jones, Jack Nungy. Pretty much the entire core of that team is gone, and the starters for that team. I think they are returning Zach Fremantle, though, who is a really good player who got injured before the March Madness tourney last season. They could have used him, but coming off of a good season, making the Sweet 16 last year, losing a lot of the core of that team, like I said. But they do have a pretty decent recruiting class coming in. I think they have 2 or 3 top 100 recruits coming in there to Xavier, along with a few transfers. I think Xavier is still going to be pretty good next season. Just they stack the Big East Conference. We'll see how they perform and see if they are still a top 35 or so team. I think that they will be around that area, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Strawn Miller's a really good head coach, and I feel like he's going to get these guys on track. So teams to watch that just did not make the cut. A lot of Pac-12 teams in here that I'm just unsure about. UCLA, they lost a lot, man. Tiger Campbell, Hami Hawkes, Jaden Clark, Amari Bailey, you name it, man. They are moving on. UCLA going to have a completely new team. They have a really good coach there. We'll see if UCLA is still going to be really good. If they are, then they'll immediately, jump back in up to the top Power 35 rankings. Clemson's returning a lot. I feel like they're going to be one of the more underrated teams in the ACC next season. They were good all season in, they were good. They had a stretch last year where they were really good in the ACC and kind of dominating. They ended up missing the NCAA tournament, but they're returning a lot, like I said. Clemson, definitely a team to watch. Missouri's going to be super good. Honestly, they should be on this list. I'm a big fan of Dennis Gates. I think Missouri, definitely a team to look out for. They could make it. Cal has had an insane offseason. I just could not put them on this list because they were so terrible last year. But new head coach, a completely new team. I think they're going to be super good. I just could not put them on this list this early. NC State is losing their backcourt, but they brought in some really good guards through the transfer portal. Be on the lookout for them in the ACC as well, and also Colorado. Colorado is going to be really good. They did miss out on Graham Ike, which I think they should have tried to go after a little bit heavier, but maybe they were never winning that battle against Gonzaga. They did bring in Eddie Lampkin. They do have guys like Tristan Da Silva returning. I think Colorado is going to be pretty solid. We'll just see if they are able to put it all together. So that is going to do it for my first way too early preseason Power 35 rankings. Let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comment section. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new. A ton of college basketball content coming here on the YouTube channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching.